On June 24th, 2020, I made a video where I ranked the 15 most popular Roblox story games, and I said that the best was Field Trip C. And nowadays, I don't agree with that anymore. Number 2 on the list was Break-In, which I think is better than Field Trip C. But I think the one that tops them is the one I had at number 3, and that is Circus Trip. Circus Trip was released to the public on November 1st, 2019, and it was a big success and got a lot of attention. The game was made by Paradigm Games with a very big team. When I first played the game, I thought it was pretty good. It was really unique when it came to story games at the time, as it was one of the first to be a full 30 minutes, and that was what captivated me and made me want to play. But after playing it, I was satisfied with the ending, which I saw on YouTube since I never got past this part. I actually only finally beat the game yesterday as of writing this video. So that's my simple history with the game from the past, and like I said, I thought this game was only pretty good before. But after a long time of replaying the game and thinking about it, I figured out that this is the best story game ever made, and I would like to try and explain that. So let's begin. The game starts at a campsite, which is really similar to other games, but compared to those, this game's introduction is really compelling. Instead of just having a guide, we also have another NPC acting as a camper. The dialogue here is really good and is also really funny. This game's comedic writing is great. You have good interaction between the two characters as well as even the audience. After that, a thunderstorm starts and burns down the entire camp, leaving our characters at a really low point. They have no food or water, the bus's engine isn't working, and they have no contact with the outside world. They're just screwed. But the counselor, yes, that's literally his name, mentioned that he saw a circus when he was out looking for water, so he decided to go there. The next part of the game is the deep woods, where we have to avoid bear traps, and if someone happens to step on a bear trap, your entire day will be ruined. There are different paths in this part, but I'll talk more about that later in another section. This part is great, as it's really frightening and tense. We also get more dialogue from the counselor and kid, where their characters are more developed, which makes us care more for these characters. So anyway, we escape the forest and we reach the circus. Everything seems to be normal about the circus, and is very fun and lighthearted, and we get introduced to Giggles, which in my opinion is the funniest character in the game. His circus performance is so chaotic, and the comments he makes to himself and everything that happens here is just so fun. Later in the performance, after witnessing 2 people literally die, we get put on the stage where we become the performance. We have more comedic parts which I found really funny, and a few obbies which I found challenging, but fun. And then we get to another part with getting thrown a pie at us, and I think that's pretty cool. Okay, what the fuck? This is the point of no return. The game transitions from an intense story game with cute moments to just a straight up horror game. This is where stuff gets serious, and after this, you are permanently in third person for the rest of the game. This is to properly sell that this is a horror game. I don't want to talk about the Giggler yet, but he is such an amazing antagonist. The counselor gets dismembered, and us and Bacon Kid are left alone. We're able to break out of our cages, and we have to hide, and oh my gosh, the atmosphere here. It's amazing. It's so terrifying to walk around here, and it looks great. We're able to hide, and we also commit murder along the way, but let's not worry about that. After that, we meet Park Ranger Tim, which has been held here as a hostage, and we free him as he seems nice. He helps us to the cabin where a crime scene took place, and he attempts to call the police, and Giggles catches us in a terrifying scene, where he also begins eating one of us. You know what? Good for him. Luckily, Tim lets us free, and we have to run through a fast-paced obby section, and we reach the circus again, and we have to fight the clowns for a while before the FBI comes and saves us. And the last thing that happens is that we run into the truck, and right before the door closes, Giggles comes for us, and we close the door at the last second, which is so cool. After that, we get a prologue, which explains all that happened, and after all this anxiety from the game, this prologue is just really nice, fun, and relaxing. The Giggler is narrating the prologue with nice music and visuals. The prologue also recaps everything well and sort of teases what will happen next time. This is also further teased with the post-credit scene, which sets up Circus Trip 2. So that's basically this game's story, and I think it's extremely well written. It's well paced, and I'm not bored by it on replays. The story is very engaging, fun, and scary. This is the best story of a camping game in my opinion. The game only has one set ending to the plot, and it's just straightforward with it being a story-driven game. It's also the only Roblox game that I find scary, so that's also really impressive. I love this game's story, but there's one aspect which I didn't talk about as much as I'm giving him his own section, and that is the villain of the game. This guy. Well, he said, let's talk about the second best villain. Now, when it comes to villains in story games, who do we have exactly? We have Zach Nolan from Camping. He's a murderer. That's about it. He also has a backstory, I guess. We have Scary Larry, who isn't scary at all, and is just a maybe, perhaps a robot, I think. Who else? The skeleton from Airplane? Okay, I think you understand. All these villains are very basic and don't have much of a personality. Oh yeah. The Giggler is such an amazing villain. He has almost all the aspects which I love in a villain. He's really enjoyable to watch, he's threatening, terrifying, and just an active antagonist through most of the story. The Giggler isn't seen or referred to until we get to the circus itself, where we see his performance, which is really entertaining. Even though 2 people die throughout his show, it wasn't exactly his doing, but the way he plays it for laughs and he tries to cover it up is just hilarious. And in the performance, the audience gets to perform, and he even says some foreshadowing to what will happen later. And after the last performance, with us getting pie thrown at us, we black out, and the Giggler kills the counselor. This, as I said, is the turning point in the game. For the rest of the game, he is the main focus. His design is so imposing, tall, and threatening. He's so well detailed, and to actually make him more scary, he even has a voice acting. This is the only character in game to have this. Everyone else just has Banjo-Kazooie voices. I think the filter they use on his voice also makes it better when he screams, yells, or laughs. It's just great. The Giggler is also terrifying in concept. The Giggler's goal is unclear, but he has a plan, as we can see in the basement portion of the game. But his current goal in this game is to kidnap children and turn them mad to make them a part of his crew. Because that's what happens if you die in the parkour section. The reason it's most likely only children is because they have a hard time defending themselves, as well as the fact that they're more vulnerable. And another piece of evidence is the fact that guess what happens to the only person in our group that was an adult? Yeah. After the Giggler leaves us, we are able to get out and we find the park ranger, Tim. It's a bit unclear why the Giggler hasn't killed him yet, but when we first see him, his name's hostage, so the Giggler keeps him alive for a reason. When he catches us at the cabin, he's mad that we escaped, so he says, why the heck not, and he decides to eat us. And I didn't know before playing the game recently that this scene where he's munching on you was in the game, but since I've never seen it before, that terrified me. And after we escape, we reach the basement, where we see the plans the Giggler has. We don't understand it yet, but it's most likely going to happen in Circus Trip 2. Then the rest of the ending happens, and in the credits, him being the narrator is just so fun, and how he talks about everything in a twisted way, saying how he became a celebrity after being on the news for murdering several people, and how he doesn't care at all for us and just calling the funeral for the counselor an after party. It's just so funny. And we also get a post-credit scene where he asserts his dominance once more by breaking into the police station for an unknown reason for now. The Giggler is just such a perfect villain for a story game. Even though he doesn't appear before halfway through the game, he still works so well. He is the centerpiece of the final half of the game, and is a villain I need more of. I love seeing how my friends react to him when I'm showing them the game for the first time, and I love replaying the game and thinking of things like theories about him and what his goals are. I just think he's such an amazing villain. And another positive about him and the game itself is the attention to detail. And hey, let's talk about that. This game is so much detailed. The second the game is done loading and you get to the forest, you can see it. The building, the lighting, the atmosphere, it's so great. The rest of the building in the game is also something I think is amazing. The lighting is as well on point in most locations. Also, the dialogue. I mentioned in the story section that I think it's really good and it keeps me engaged, but it's also the details that keep me interested. When a character talks, their face right next to the text bar changes, and these faces are so extremely expressive and funny. They're even the punchline of jokes sometimes. Something I also think is cool is that these characters aren't just NPCs standing still and the text bar and images do all the talking. The characters' faces even change to represent their faces on the text bar. This gives the characters life, and it makes me interested in the earlier portions of the game when I replay it. Another little thing that I think is so amazing is a certain portion of the game where if you make a mistake, a ton of the game will change without it resulting in a unique ending, and that is the bear traps. The section revolves around us trying to get around the bear traps, and we have two different scenarios here. We get over safely and we don't make any noise, or someone steps on the bear traps and that makes the wolves come out. That might not sound very different, just that if you step on the bear traps, you will get a chase scene. It's what happens after this section that is so special. If you get through the bear traps without stepping on them, a park ranger will find you and he will guide you to the circus. But if someone steps on the bear traps, we can see that he was killed by the wolves. As well as that, in the end when we are in the Giggler's basement and if we got through the bear traps, the park ranger will call us, and if he dies, he won't. This is just a little extra thing which I find so cool. There didn't need to be alternate paths, but they still are here. This is also something awesome in the replay portion of the game. When I decided to play this game multiple times, I realized details like this, and I think it's awesome. In addition to that, most of the people only play this game once, and after they beat it, they're done. But that works in this part's favor, as many people's experience for the game will be different from others, and I think this is awesome. Also, everything I said about the Giggler. The fact that he is voice acting is just incredible, and to complement it even further, his mouth moves as well, which is so scary. This portion of the game's building is also really frightening. The lighting and the character designs here are just really unsettling. The whole look of the cabin is also really impressive, and I think it looks amazing. The whole point of this section is just to tell you how much there is to discover here. Every time I replay this game, I discover a new detail. These are the things that make this game amazing and an experience worth coming back to. But I think it's time to conclude. Circus Trip is such an amazing story game in every way. It's well written, well built, and really replayable for me. It's one of the best story game experiences you can get. When me and a friend has about half an hour to spare and we don't know what to do, I introduce them to this game. They always love it, and I have so much fun seeing them react to the events and twists in the game. Please, try this game out, even if you're not interested in story games. Maybe this will pique your interest. Most of them aren't very good, but this one is worth trying, as I think it's the best story game ever made. So, thanks for listening to me gushing about this game for 12 minutes. I wanted to talk about this game for such a long time, since I made that mistake of putting it number 3 on my list. But I'm happy you listened. This is a pretty unique video to what I usually make, but I enjoy trying different things out as I think it's fun. So, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye!